What is going on, boys and girls? A very good morning to you all that's checking this out live right now as we're coming on Tuesday, February 3rd, 2014. It's 12:30 a.m. Eastern. Literally just a couple of minutes ago, the Stone Cold podcast with Triple H live on the WWE Network just went off the air. I'm here to give a bit of a recap, bullet points on thoughts on stuff that I thought was very interesting about this Steve Austin podcast with Triple H. I'll also give my overall analysis of this podcast. Those of you that have watched the podcast, you're joining us as we're live right now for the next little bit. You're more than welcome to interact with us. Post those comments down below. Hit us up on Twitter at the RCWR show. We're also on Facebook at Infinity One Productions. That's Infinity with an E. Put in the actual number one. You got to spell it out, ONE, Infinity One Productions. Now, look, those of you that's looking for the actual podcast to listen to, Steve Austin, I'm sure he's probably going to be releasing the interview audio format wise with Hunter probably a day or two later this week. If you're looking for the actual visual presentation of the podcast, I can't stress it enough. You have nothing to lose, a lot to gain. Go sign up for the WWE Network if you're in North America. It's free for the entire month. By doing so, you'll be able to check out the Steve Austin podcast. You'll be able to check out a really great promotion called NXT. You'll be able to check out the inaugural WWE Fastlane pay-per-view. So, I mean, there's a lot that you have. After you get done with Fastlane, you can cancel because, as WWE will be quick to tell you, you can cancel at any time, no commitments, no penalties. So cancel the day after you get done with the Fastlane pay-per-view, or hell, as soon as you get done watching you can hit the cancel button. All right. Now, look, we got our long-time subscribers that's probably looking for a Raw review. I got caught up on remixing tonight. I was audio all throughout the night trying to prepare for our 400th episode of the RCWR show, which is going to be airing at 10 p.m. Eastern over on Spreaker.com this Tuesday night. So make sure you join us for that. I'll actually be talking about WWE Raw on there. All right. So for now, just kick back, relax. Let's talk about this Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast show. Look, off the break, for me, I've always been a fan of Triple H. And I know that's probably going to ruffle the feathers of some people the wrong way. And I may lose a couple of brownie points with some people saying that. But allow me to just explain the reasons why I've always been a fan of Triple H. It's just my personal take. And it actually kind of goes back to a little bit of my earlier childhood when I was in my teens, and me and my best friend Ebony, we used to be very serious in working out. I mean, we were doing the whole bodybuilding thing. We were pushing muscles, six packs, all that crazy stuff at one point. I remember at one point me and her actually had talked about becoming personal trainers for people. That's just how serious we were with our nutrition and all that, with our health and fitness. And for us growing up, massive wrestling fans we were. We paid attention to the Chynas. We paid attention to the Triple H's, and we were like, wow, these guys, they look like something that's like made out of stone, just chiseled out of stone. These guys are freaking awesome. And we would just become infatuated with these two particular characters, and we were like, man, that's what we need to look like. We need to look like that. Those guys look freaking awesome. And then as time kind of went on a little bit, it just became one of those type of deals where every single time we saw Triple H in the ring, we knew we were going to get an entertaining match. We knew this guy who, for the most part at that point in time, was a freaking heel, and he was just pushing all the right buttons to make you boo and just hate the living crap out of him, make you want to just throw a freaking hammer at the television, and then afterwards you're like, what am I going to do now on Monday nights? It is one of those type of deals. And for me, I've always had that appreciation for Triple H, the performer. And then as time would go on and I'd hear little snippets of interviews that he would give, very rare would I really be able to gain just a little touch of his personality. And honestly, I think with this Steve Austin podcast tonight, for my God, I think it was about an hour, 10 minutes that he was talking to Steve Austin. You learned a lot from Triple H, so much so that if you were a fan of the WWE product back in the Attitude Era, and you were one of those type of guys that just passionately could not stand Triple H, oh, it's the Triple H show, or who's Triple H gonna bury this week? I tell you what, you can have all those little jokes, but I tell you what, after you get done checking out this podcast with Steve Austin, you couldn't help but walk away and say, at the very minimum, you know what? That Triple H isn't really a bad guy. He actually brings up a lot of good points. Steve Austin, according to my notes right here, went for the jugular off the break as he had talked about keeping the finger on the pulse. What exactly was going on with the Royal Rumble, because he had received about over 3,000 emails, a vast majority coming from fans that were so vocal about the Royal Rumble pay-per-view. They did not like the poor creative writing that went into Roman Reigns going over. And of course, you had those fans that were very passionate about, hey, Daniel Bryan, he was only in there for a hot cup of coffee. Why he get taken out so fast? Hey, shouldn't he been in the final four, final five? Hell, shouldn't he have won the whole thing? And at that point, Triple H, he noted that, in situations like that, and many times over, it's all about having the finger be on the pulse. It's all about the people. At one point back in the day, they would accept a storyline that was given to them. And as far as he's concerned, those days are now gone. Or as he bluntly put it, kayfabe is dead. And he said, unfortunately, the fans, they're now at a point where they want to go in a different direction than what's being presented to them by the WWE. So for Triple H, he sees fans that say, oh, this guy, in case of Roman Reigns, he's getting a push, and he's getting a push that he doesn't deserve, when it should be this guy. This guy, he worked his butt off. This guy worked very hard. And as far as Triple H is concerned, that's not the number one priority, and having somebody get that workload on their shoulders and being the top dog and being the face of the company. It plays a small role, but it's not the be all end all. That's not what makes the person go over. And Triple H, he really brought it home when he was saying that in this day and age, it's really hard to find that right piece of talent that has every single good characteristic you need to be able to say, you know what, we can put the company on this person's shoulders and they're going to deliver. And he goes back to John Cena, and he jumped out there. He said, love him or hate him. The guy, he sells out arenas, he sells out live events. He's the first one to get there, he's the last one to leave. That guy embodies everything that it truly means to be a WWE superstar. And unfortunately, it's not like how it was in yesteryears, where you had so many different options and talent that could pick up the ball. And I think a good example of that is, look at what happened after Steve Austin had to go get that neck surgery and he was out for an entire year. Just think about how that roster was back then, with so many pieces of great talent that were able to pick up the ball, elevate their game, and run with the damn thing. They did not miss a beat when Steve Austin was away. If anything, the real question would become, how would Austin's return to the WWE be? Would the fans accept him? Because, to be gone that long length of time, a lot can happen in 12 months. People are already jumped on to a new and entirely different flavor, but you wrestling historians, as you all know, Steve Austin would eventually be able to reclaim his top spot in the WWE. 1996 King of the Ring was brought up, and as you wrestling historians know, those of you in particular that's been watching your WWE long enough, you know originally Triple H was supposed to win that, but because of the infamous curtain call, that spot would go to Steve Austin. And Triple H had admitted that he was glad that in hindsight that all had went down, because for him, looking at where his career would end up, he could say with confidence that had he been given that 1996 King of the Ring spot, he wouldn't have been ready. He knows in his heart of hearts that he just wasn't ready yet. Could he have handled the load? Maybe, but he really felt that he wasn't as seasoned as Steve Austin was, who honestly, that's another thing I noticed about this podcast. Triple H puts over Steve Austin so many times that at some point you say to yourself, damn, it seems like Triple H is doing a lot of ass kissing. What's going on right here? Well, Steve Austin and Triple H, they've been friends since 1992. Yes, you heard me say the F word. Steve Austin, Triple H, yes, they're good friends, and they've been that way since 1992. A lot of history those two guys have, and you could really tell that throughout this hour, 10 minutes, all right? Also, getting back to the Royal Rumble, Triple H did say that this year's Rumble, it was heavily debated. There was a lot of suggestions that was made. Ultimately, it comes down to one person and one person's call, and that is Vince McMahon. It was his call after taking all the feedback, all the different angles, advice, everything that was coming to him. It was his call to decide what was going to pan out overall for the Royal Rumble event. What we had saw go down was on him. Some of you all, you may cry foul. You may say, hey, that's kind of messed up. Some of you may say, I'm not really buying that with the whole Triple H. Oh, it's on Vince. It kind of seems like maybe they're just passing the buck. I honestly believe in my heart of hearts that Triple H was telling the truth right here. So much so as to what comes later in the interview, as he talks very candidly about a few things he would change if he was given control of WWE Raw. I'll get to that in just a little bit, but he mentioned Vince himself, the writers. He said, look, we all are not perfect. Sometimes we do a lot of hits, sometimes we do a lot of misses. We're not perfect. And as tonight had showed, I will say this, from the little bit of Raw that I had saw tonight, if you would have told me that at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view, Roman Reigns damn near got booed out the building or whatever, or he was a casualty of getting a lot of hate from the crowd, I would have said, really, that had happened after I watched tonight's Raw, because the crowd seemed to really get behind him. Something that Steve Austin had brought up tonight, as he gave Triple H and WWE a lot of credit for the way that they booked Roman Reigns tonight, making him look very strong, having him come out at the end, spear the hell out of the Big Show, spear the hell out of Joey Mercury. Said it was definitely what was needed, as now we see that at the Fastlane pay-per-view coming up in a couple of weeks, it's going to be Daniel Bryan taking on Roman Reigns. Winner of that will go on to face Brock Lesnar for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Another thing that was brought up was how back in the day, far as in Austin and Triple H's time in the ring, they used to do a lot of audibles. Basically, they would just go out there and they would just throw stuff on the wall and just see what would happen. They had like a couple of bullet points, but for the most part, they were going out there without a safety net, and they were just bouncing off of one another, and whatever worked, and on the spot, thinking right there as far as their promo work had went. I mean, live TV, On top of that, I mean, you really gotta deliver, you know? Um, Triple H candidly talked about how today it kind of seems like they have to now go across so many barriers as far as presenting good quality TV, uh, good creative wrestling, and all that. But back in the day, they used to be able to just focus on one thing only, and the fans used to be able to eat that up. Again, it goes back to the comments that he made at the top of the show, which is kayfabe is dead, and the reality era. He went a little bit more in depth about that, talking about how backstage stuff has crossed over, and that when the stories from what you're watching on TV isn't told that well, that casual or hardcore wrestling fan or WWE fan, they're saying to themselves, okay, I know that there's something more to this than what's being presented to me. They're being a smart, savvy little bunch now. I mean, they're now going to sites like Grantland, or they're going to the Miami Herald, or who knows, maybe they're going to Wrestling Inc., or whatever the cup of tea may be. They're going to get that wrestling news fixed because they want to try to feel as if they have their hand on the pulse. They know exactly what's going on. And because of that, a lot of times it's been kind of throwing WWE off a little bit as far as what direction they're trying to go with key wrestlers or story arcs, things of that nature. But Triple H had pointed out, you think you know what's best for wrestler A, B, C. You think you know that, oh, well, if I was in charge, and this is a comment that I see all the time in our comment section, oh, well, we should book it because blah this, blah that, blah that. And I mean, look, we could sit here for like a 3-5 hour freaking show and talk about a gazillion things that WWE should be doing, and it would just like make all perfect sense in the world. But when it's all said and done, we got to face facts. Neither me, you, everybody else that we know that is not in the WWE, unfortunately, we can't call the creative shots. The only thing we can do is just kick back and look on the sidelines, question what exactly is going on. And for some of us, we stay the course to see what exactly is going to happen on a week to week basis with that character until we can get enough weeks, months of a good thesis to be able to say, okay, well, this is what's been going on with this character over the past couple of months. Here's the good, here's the bad. Okay, here's what needs to happen as a result. But unfortunately, you have some people out there that will just judge what's going on with that character on a week to week basis. We over here at the RCWR show, we've been victims of that from time to time. From time to time, I want to make sure we stress that. But Triple H brought up a very good point. He said, even if you were to bring up a perfect storyline like for Daniel Bryan, you take it all the way up to WrestleMania, you still have to go to Raw the very next day. Just because WrestleMania, you get that great, man, you go home happy or whatever. As we're constantly reminded, the WWE has no off season. They just keep on going. And that's where the fun and the magic really lies, is in the fact that there's no off season. The story continues. It's live for the most part. And as the weeks progress, more pieces are being added. Old pieces are being removed, new pieces being added, new elements, all that good stuff. From there, see, according to my notes right here, one of the big topics that was brought up was the success that Triple H has been able to obtain while making the transition into being the WWE COO. He addressed the criticism that he's been getting over the years. Basically, he would not have everything that he has right now if it wasn't for him being married to one Stephanie McMahon. And I'm sure you guys have seen the meme. I think that's what they're calling it. M-E meme. I'm just now catching on to that too. I like the little graphics that they do, but you see the silly little images that's floating around. I know there's one little image that's floating around right now where it has Triple H holding on to Stephanie, and they're in front of the WWE corporate jet, and there's like this caption that says, treat her right, Triple H, because if you do her wrong, everything, the plane, the jet, and all that, it all disappears. And, I'm proud to say I've never thought like that when it came to Triple H. I understood the circumstances of what went down with him and Stephanie hooking up. Man, my only criticism as Steve Austin, he did bring it up, which was the fact that he watched Triple H's like Kingdom Come DVD. I wish he would have asked a question. Okay, look, we both know the circumstances for you hooking up with Stephanie. How come you didn't address that on the DVD? Or, and honestly, I'm glad that Austin didn't, because I kind of got my answer later on when the topic of Chyna came up. That's a little bit of a cliffhanger for you guys for now. But, he basically said, with regards to that criticism, the greatest advice that he had got was from Undertaker. As Undertaker had told him, look, what do you care what people say? You know what's in your heart. You know the truth. The only opinion that matters is yours. Steph, the McMahon family, go with your guts. Just listen to your heart. Bump what everybody else is saying. And that's exactly what Triple H had did. And Austin had asked him if Triple H ever had a exit strategy like life after the ring. And as far as Triple H was concerned, he felt that in some shape or form, he was gonna remain with the WWE. He felt like he was a WWE lifer, and that he would be doing something behind the scenes, because there's just that big part of him that just loves the whole creative process. And as he's talking about the whole creative process, I mean, you can just see the sparkles in his eyes, a little twinkle. He's just excited with the whole creative process. You can really tell that he enjoys being behind the scenes, and is really into that role more so than being an in-ring performer. A couple of people were brought up. Kurt Angle, nice little nod to Kurt Angle. He really put him over, talked about how Kurt Angle was just a really, really big old sponge, and he was just able to soak in so much information about the wrestling industry, about WWE style of wrestling and all that. Did a nice job in putting him over. Now, my WWE network connection, it actually froze for a little bit. I don't know if Steve Austin had asked Triple H if it was true as far as the negotiations for Kurt Angle trying to get back into the WWE. I wish that was something, if it was not mentioned, I wish that was something that was brought up, because I'm a little bit curious why Angle is not back in the WWE right now. From there, the topic was brought up of independent guys, and is it more harder to have them learn the WWE system, at which Triple H did say, you have some talents that come in from the indie scene, and they've been in the indies for such a long period of time that you can't break them in. You can't teach them anything new, because they're already set in their own ways. But then there's some you can get through. And one person that he had put over was Finn Balor. He put him over, saying how he had a really interesting conversation with him down in NXT, when they were trying to set up the entrance and all that. Do his from the ramp area, his entrance. Finn Balor was talking about how, man, and I've been working in Japan, and we don't even do all this with the cameras and the talking. They just basically say, okay, this is the person you're facing. Go to the ring, go fight. He didn't know any of this stuff. It was like an entirely new, different way of learning for him. So, and he was hungry to learn about it. That's the main important point of this story that we need to stress is that here you have a guy like Finn Balor, independent scene for a lot of years, hungry to learn, you know? And fortunately, not everybody is willing to. To want to learn because they're set in their ways, unfortunately. Mark Calloway, Undertaker, he was brought up, and Triple H really did a very good job in putting over the Undertaker character, basically saying how if that character was given to anybody else, that character would probably be like freaking dead like a long time ago. But Mark Calloway, bless his heart, he comes in there and he's just able to do something with that character to really make it be his own. I mean, this was something. I'm sure you guys have probably seen the designs of the Undertaker. I mean, this was a really groovy idea that came from the head of Vince McMahon, and for it to come to life, for Mark Calloway to be able to come in there and really breathe life into that character, and is continuing to breathe life into this character as the way things are looking right now. It's possible now we may be getting Bray Wyatt taking on Undertaker at this year's WrestleMania. Hunter did a really nice job in putting him over. Buddy Rogers, the original Nature Boy, was actually trending at one point as Steve Austin had asked him if he could go back in time and face somebody, who would he love to face? And he brought up Buddy Rogers. He just talked about the fact that Buddy Rogers was just one of those type of guys. He just had that swagger. He can go in there if he wanted you to boo him, if he wanted you to cheer him, he could do that. He could have you cheer him one night and immediately 24 hours later in a different city, he's acting like the bad guy. Whatever he wanted you to do. But most importantly, he put over Buddy Rogers' in ring ability. And I love how Triple H had said, for anybody that doesn't know anything about Buddy Rogers, you got some homework to do, basically. And like he ended up trending on Twitter during the podcast. I thought that was freaking badass. I wonder, though, how many people are actually going to be doing their research on Buddy Rogers, looking up his wrestling footage and all that. That's the real tale in itself. But if you're really listening to what I'm saying so far, the way Triple H is coming off, it's like, hey, he comes off like a man's man. Please don't ask me what I mean by that. Google's your best friend. You older folks out there, you 25 to 34, 25 to 55, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You get the sense that Triple H has a great appreciation for pro wrestling, professional wrestling. And he does jump out there towards the end of this podcast as far as, is he a sports entertainment guy or is he a pro wrestler type of guy? We're actually getting ready to wrap this up, folks. Let's go for the meat and potatoes of this. Chyna was brought up. Steve Austin asked Triple H if Chyna will ever go into the WWE Hall of Fame. Triple H, he held no punches. He said, that's a very good question. He said, look, does she deserve to go into the Hall of Fame? Without a doubt, she does, because of how awesome she was at the time that she came into the WWE. He put her over as a phenomenal talent that really helped pave the way for which the way women are seen in the ring, that they can be so much more than just a hot piece of tail. All right. But on the flip side to that, because of decisions that she's made in her life, it's made things a bit difficult as far as her going into the Hall of Fame. And he couldn't be any more blunt than saying one day his 8-year-old daughter gets on a computer and it's like, hey, Chyna's going into the Hall of Fame. But who exactly is this girl, Chyna? And finds out about her escapades in the sex industry. I should note that as far as Tammy Sunny Cinch goes, a lot of the stuff that she's been dipping into as of late, as far as webcam sessions and all that, it did not come down until after her WWE Hall of Fame. Now, remember, leading up to her WWE Hall of Fame, she was getting in trouble with the law a little bit. She was having some marital problems with a guy that she was dating. I can't remember his name right now, but the stuff with the webcam and all that, it didn't happen until after the fact. So I can understand where Triple H is coming from with regards to that. I just hope that in like 3 to 5 to 10 years, a situation doesn't happen where Val Venus gets inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame. Because for me, if you're saying China can't go in because of some stuff that she did in the adult industry, then surely Val Venus has no business going into the Hall of Fame as well. That's just my 2 cents with regards to that, but to each its own. But I could understand exactly where he was coming from with regards to that. But very interesting what he had to say. And he did stress that he has no type of beef with China whatsoever. He's not really sure what's going on at her end. I can't wait to find out what China has to say. And I'm letting you guys know right now, if you have not followed China before, China is on YouTube. She has a YouTube account. It's called Tokyo China. Yes, that's right, Tokyo China. And I actually check out a lot of her blogs that's on there, and she does like these video blogs. She usually does it like once a week or whatever, and it's good therapy. It's really good therapy, at least for her. It's really good therapy. It's a nice little way for her to try to stay connected to the fans and all that. Now, I'm letting you guys know right now, that's very curious, as I'm looking at it right now in real time, as we're still live on the air. She has not uploaded a new video yet. Her last upload was 3 days ago. So, but make sure you bookmark that, subscribe to it, just so you can check out what her rebuttal is going to be. She's also on Twitter and Facebook as well. I don't have her handles right now. But if you follow me on Twitter and Facebook, I'll actually retweet it. I'll probably actually come back on here, and in the episode description below, I'll post the link so you guys can check it out. Bruno Sammartino was brought up. Ultimate Warrior was brought up as far as which one was more difficult to communicate with and try to get into the Hall of Fame. Basically, which one was more difficult to try to mend fences with and everything. And Triple H said both men, they had their own full plate of stuff that needed to be sorted out. But he did stress that with Bruno, he never had any type of communication with Bruno whatsoever, except for like one time, and it was like a within passing type of deal. Whereas Ultimate Warrior, as you all know, there's a little bit of negative press between the two. But he said, on the contrary, despite all that had went down, he respected the hell out of Ultimate Warrior, right down to the point where when Ultimate Warrior had came in for his second run, I believe it was, in the WWE, Vince McMahon had pulled Triple H to the side and said, "Look, nobody knows this, but Ultimate Warrior is going to be coming back, and I want you to take him on at WrestleMania." So, talk about a huge honor that is. And Triple H had noted how sometimes a lot of fans will tweet to him, "Oh, yeah, you did that match with Warrior," as a way to try to stick it to him or bury him or whatever. But he said that was like one of his coolest moments for his career. He actually had loved it. CM Punk was brought up. Not much you could really sink your teeth into right here. I thought Austin was going to go in the direction of, "Hey, did you hear about what CM Punk had to say about you and about the circumstances surrounding his his receiving termination papers, just how it all had came about. What do you have to say about that? Thought it was going to really go in that direction, but it was just kind of like CM Punk. What's your thoughts on him? And really wasn't anything you could sink your teeth into. But Triple H, he basically had said, look, when Triple H had, when CM Punk had first came into the WWE, he didn't know anything about CM Punk, and that wasn't a knock to CM Punk. He just didn't know anything about him because he was busy doing whatever, whatever. I think at that point he was still a full-time in-ring competitor, so there probably was just really no way for him to really try to get to know CM Punk and everything. And unfortunately for Triple H, he really didn't get to know CM Punk until he came into the position of vice president of talent relations. And even at that, he would hear little rumors about how CM Punk is just cursing like a sailor, or he's having a bad day, he's threatening to quit. And Triple H would go up to CM Punk and be like, "What's going on? Is everything okay?" And Punk is just kind of like, "Yeah, I'm okay, no problem whatsoever." And for Triple H, his whole deal was Punk has communication problems, and he wished him nothing but the best. He said he personally had no problems with CM Punk whatsoever. Now, for those of you that might be a little bit curious, if CM Punk had to say anything during the podcast, I'm multitasking here, so I'm fumbling just a little bit. Forgive me here, guys. CM Punk has not put out any type of a tweet, although interesting tweet he put out about 9 hours ago. I don't know if it's a Triple H thing or what. You guys marinate on it. But one tweet he put out, it says, "Time to shovel, hashtag snow day." And you see this picture, and looks like he's promoting a bunch of, the hell is this? Looks like some energy drinks, formula, stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't know. When I look at that, I kind of think Triple H while I'm looking at that. I don't know about you guys, but a couple of other honorable mentions: pro wrestling versus sports entertainment. What exactly is Triple H's position? He let it be no secret. He is a pro wrestling buff. He is a guy that really appreciates the rich history of professional wrestling. At the same time, he knows that at the end of the day, as far as sports entertainment goes, they need to be able to branch themselves out and really be able to market themselves, if you will, to those that may not be familiar with them. Yeah, I know it's kind of a half-ass answer that he gave, but take it for what it's worth. He's really a pro wrestling guy. Brock Lesnar's contract was brought up. Triple H did admit that Brock Lesnar's contract is about to be up shortly, and that Brock Lesnar really likes the arrangements that he has with the WWE. And at this point, Brock Lesnar is just trying to figure out if he wants to continue on with the WWE or if he's maybe contemplating a return to MMA. But Triple H did go on record saying that as far as Brock Lesnar's contract goes, they are negotiating right now. Undertaker's streak, whether or not it should have ended or not, Triple H looked at it from both perspectives. I was actually quite pleased with his answer with regards to that. And see, am I missing anything else? They did go into overtime. Promos was brought up. Interesting information right here as far as the promos go. Triple H has said that some folks, they like getting bullet points, while others like to get their script, change it around a little bit, make it their own so that they can feel very comfortable. Others like to just be handed a script so they can just try to memorize their lines. But he admitted that a large part of why they operate this way is because they have a responsibility to the sponsors, and the last thing they want to do is upset some of those sponsors. And also, I teased you guys with this earlier, but Steve Austin asks Hunter what would be one major thing he would change about WWE Raw is if he was given control of it. He talked about Raw going back to 2 hours. He said that it can be very, very difficult to write for a 3 hour show, but he knows that this is not his call. Ultimately, this is the call of Vince McMahon and WWE's finance department. But he feels that at this point, it's difficult to write a 3 hour show, and that also he would love to be able to take the time to develop storylines longer, have it be a slow burn, as today's fans have a very short attention span. And, as a result of that, you can't please everybody. I mean, I could take the WrestleMania match, Iron Man match between HBK, Shawn Michaels, and Bret Hart, and I've done this before. I've showed this to a couple of my buddies, and after about 20 minutes, they're like, "Is this almost over?" They can't appreciate really good storytelling, long storytelling at that. So, of course, he talked about his baby NXT and the talent. He talked about how with NXT, basically from the lighting, the camera angles, everything that you see that's going on down there, it's basically like a smaller version of what's happening on main WWE programming. And it's designed that way so that once the NXT talent does come up to main WWE programming, it's an easy transition. And he also talked about how with NXT, there is no crutch for him to rely on. There's no Vince McMahon to go running to. If he screws up, it's on him. All right. And for him, there's a lot of room for trial and error. As far as the talent goes, there's a lot of room as far as creativity goes, getting it down packed, just really taking your time and molding things just right, making it perfect. One thing that he did note about NXT, he said he would love the opportunity to be able to take NXT on the road because, as far as he's concerned, the only real way he knows what's right, what's wrong is if they take NXT on the road. And I definitely see exactly where he's coming from. I mean, if you really think about it, what they're doing down there at Full Sail University is no different than what TNA was doing at Universal Studios in Florida. So he does bring up a good point as far as NXT branching out and going out on the road more. Who knows? Maybe it could be a situation where if scheduling will permit it, maybe they can go on tour with the guys for SmackDown when they get ready to record SmackDown. I mean, that's one idea right there. Or maybe they can record NXT on Monday nights with Raw. Maybe they can have like that one whole hour be about NXT. Good setup for Monday Night Raw. It's a great way to learn, I think. What do you guys think? Post your comments down below. Let me know. But overall, I really thought that it was a really good, insightful conversation. And it gave you great insight into how Triple H's mind works. And like I said at the very beginning of this, you'll definitely walk away from this and at bare minimal. And I say bare minimal because I know there's just a lot of people that's out there, they just can't stand Triple H's guts or whatever. But I promise you, if you watch this, you take the time to check it out, You walk away and you'll say, at bare minimal, the Triple H, that guy, he's decent. You know, he's okay. Let's see if we got some comments coming in from you guys right now. We'll show you some love before we go off the air. So make sure you post your comments down below or hit us up on Twitter at the RCWR show. And as I'm pulling up you guys' comments right now, I want to just politely remind you all that we are going to be having our 400th episode of the RCWR show this Tuesday night or later tonight. You'll be able to catch it at 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker.com. And we're going to be going a little bit all over the place. I'll be giving my thoughts on the latest edition of WWE Raw. I'll also be giving my thoughts on the very latest and wrestling headlines and all that good stuff. And we actually have a really good conversation with PWI's top 50 in females, professional female wrestlers. This year, she came in at rank number 18. Last year, she was at rank number 7. Hey, she still made the list. She's been making their list for 4 years in a row right now. We'll be chatting it up with the beautiful and the lovely Casey Carlisle as it was a great conversation that I had with her. We talked for like about what was recorded was about over an hour, 10 minutes. But once it was over, we talked for like about almost 3 hours, and it was freaking awesome. We went all over the place. And as you listen to the conversation, we're actually going to split it up in two parts for you. So part one will be airing on our 400th episode tomorrow, and then the conclusion will air on episode 401 next week. Really awesome stuff. You guys will definitely mess with it. Once again, if you're joining us and you're looking for the actual Steve Austin podcast interview with Triple H, the WWE Network, it's available in about over 160 countries. Right now, you can sign up for it for free. If WWE Network is not available for your respected country just yet, there are ways that you can still get the WWE Network. Just pretend that you have a American residence address and all of that. If you do a Google or Bing search, there's some really great tips that's out there to teach you how to do it. But the network is free all this month in North America. Sign up for it. You can check it out that way. WWE, they may end up showing snippets of it on their YouTube channel at WWE Fan Nation. So I would definitely highly encourage you all to make note of that. And then let's not also forget that through podcast one, the Steve Austin podcast with Triple H will probably be released, if not later today, I would think for sure before Friday. So, just wait it out until you get it. On that note, let's see what comments we got coming in from you guys here. We'll take it from the top and we'll work our way to the bottom here. KC, what's up, KC? Hope WWE Network do more Stone Cold podcasts. I have a feeling that they will, KC. Honestly, I think in about a month or so, they're probably going to sit down with Stephanie McMahon next. That just seems to be the way they're operating, at least in my eyes. I mean, first you kick things off with Vince McMahon, then you go Triple H. To me, it makes all the sense in the world to then go with Stephanie McMahon next. Who you go with after that? If it was me personally, after you get those initial three out the way, I'd love to get a Stone Cold podcast with Shane McMahon. Quite honestly, I think that would be freaking awesome. Wolverine, hey Lee, do you think Chyna will ever eventually be in the Hall of Fame, or do you think she has damaged her chances beyond repair? At this point in time, I'm actually gonna defend Chyna. Chyna's been doing a really good job since she's moved to Japan. She's been staying clean, and she's really been trying to get healthy. She's been taking up yoga and all that. She's been out there in Japan for a couple of years now, and she looks pretty good. Looks like she doesn't get a lot of credit in the world. She has a very high IQ, a very high IQ. She is a very smart woman, and I'm not gonna say never. Honestly, if she can stop coming off like she's hurt every time Triple H and Stephanie are brought up, if she can finally just get to that point where it's like, okay, it's over. He went in this direction and I need to go. And yeah, and it's unfortunate that Triple H went in a direction where nothing but good things happened for his life, his health. But unfortunately for China, it was the opposite. I feel bad for her, but we all are in control of our destiny. I always say life is nothing more than about choices. The choices you make have an ever long lasting impact that will eventually catch up to you. It can be the most simplest thing as choosing to smoke a cigarette every day. You end up getting lung cancer. Then again, one could make the argument that you never smoked a pack of cigarettes in your life, you get cancer anyway. I don't know. Sometimes it could be a double edged sword. Um, I think she can go into the WWE Hall of Fame. I think she just has to really prove that she's a totally different person and that what happened in the past between her, Hunter, and Steph, that's past. I don't think she's ever going to be able to let go. I just don't. Not until she gets a guy that maybe is equal to Triple H or better. Most importantly, somebody that treats her right and all that. MVP, X Pac was part of that as well, and they sure don't care about bringing him into the fold. Yeah, it's another direction that they could have went into. Jimmy, hi Lee. If Brock comes back, what if he turns face and takes on Rusev with Heyman against Lesnar? I'll answer that on our Tuesday night edition, buddy. Plus ones, quick question. What in the heck happened to David Otunga? I'm not answering that question. I'll answer that on Tuesday night. I cannot pronounce this next name. I'm just going to call you MAHS. You know who you are. Hey, Lee, love your show. I have to say three things. I understand if this doesn't get responded to. Argument one, how do I put this? Do you ever get a gut feeling that the people in the WWE are lying to the fans? Like they will say, oh, yeah, we do what's best for business and we listen to the fans, when in reality, they don't give a damn about the fans or what's best for business. Like a very close friend of mine always tells me, if you're going to lie, be a good liar. And he always gets that gut feeling. Argument two, Roman Reigns. People say he has improved himself well. All I have to say is that correction. All I have to say is, what wrestling promotion are they watching? Because to me, there's more. Ooh, you got a lot that I'm gonna stop right there. I'll tell you what we'll do, because a lot of this is rehash, and we actually talked about it on last week's radio edition of the RCWR show. We actually uploaded a lot of excerpts. So a lot of these questions that you're asking, from what I can see, we tackled this off air. I'll take a look at what you're saying, and if I feel that there's something that was not addressed on last week's show, that we can definitely talk about then on this week's show. Let's keep it moving along now. Tackle some more questions or comments. Stunner, I think they should have waited for Daniel Bryan to return either at WrestleMania or the night after and challenge the WWE champion as a heel. Really not that many Triple H stuff. I want to hear more about what you guys thought about the Steve Austin Triple H podcast. So let's stick to that topic. Joker, I love that Triple H agrees with most of us when it comes to the main Divas division, and is why the ladies at NXT get more time and have better matches. Yeah, I thought that was a really good point that he brought up as well, Joker. I was really, really pleased. I could actually pick up the sincerity in his voice when he was talking about the women. And honestly, I think deep down inside, there is a part of him. I mean, hell, the guy has 3 girls, for crying out loud. I think there's a part of him that, as a father to 3 beautiful little girls, wants to see the women really shine in the WWE. And, until we get to that point where it will definitely go down on the main roster, NXT is really the place to go to for that good women's wrestling fix. I mean, we keep seeing cameos by Leva Bates, Mia Yim. We got Becky Lynch down there doing her thing. We got Sasha Banks. We got Charlotte. Oh, I go on and on. Those girls are freaking awesome, man. I love them. All right, we'll refresh this one more time. And if there's no more new comments coming in, then we're going to go on ahead and we're going to wrap it up. If I did not get to your comments, have no fear. I'll respond to you guys later on today, because it's actually getting a little bit late over here right now. But let me just peek my head in the comment section one more time. Make sure we took care of everybody. Yeah, it looks like for now we took care of everybody, so that's good. All right, so one more time, those of you that did watch the Steve Austin podcast, I want to hear from you. If you didn't comment yet, do comment, post it down below. You can also hit us up on Twitter at the RCWR Show, or Facebook at Infinity One Productions. And one more time, I got to remind you, 400th episode of the RCWR Show is coming up this Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, live on Spreaker.com. I'm going to talk about WWE Raw. I'll also talk about the very latest in wrestling headlines and beyond. We also got a great 1 of 2-part conversation with the beautiful and the lovely Casey Carlisle. It's going to be a fantastic show. Make sure you guys check it out. If it's your first time checking us out here on YouTube, I'd love to have you subscribe to us so you never miss out on all the great content we do for you here on a weekly basis. We have a little bit of something for everybody, whether it's reviews like what we're doing for you guys right now, or we're breaking news, or we have some really fun and insightful interviews. Speaking of which, in a couple of weeks, we're actually going to be interviewing somebody. It's a big, big name, WWE Hall of Famer, rather young, a little bit of a hint right there. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait. I will drop the name as it gets more closer, but we've already locked the guy. It is a guy. It's going to be awesome. I promise you that. That's going to do it for now. Make sure you give this a thumbs up. When you give it a thumbs up, you're showing love to the YouTube creators here, as a lot of time resources goes into covering the content that you love so much. All right. And that is going to do it. Till we see you at 10 p.m. Eastern on Spreaker for that 400th episode. Black Avenger Lee Sanders here, wishing all y'all to be safe. Most importantly, be kind to one another. We'll see you next go round, babies. Everybody, take care.